In today's economy, many Americans are cutting back on the non-essentials. Unfortunately, there are some things that just can't be ignored, and automobile maintenance is one of them. However, by learning how to do your own simple maintenance jobs, you can save money. Hi, my name is Lee Folkman, and today I'm going to show you how to change the rear brake pads on a 1996 Volkswagen Passat TDI. Now this information will work for any Volkswagen from the years 1985 to 1998 with rear disc brakes. The tools that you will need for this job are a jack stand, a jack, a lug wrench, or a 17mm socket and ratchet, or you can also use an impact wrench. You may need a flathead screwdriver. You will need a 13mm socket and ratchet, a 15mm open-end wrench, either an adjustable wrench or a 7/8 inch open-end wrench. You may need a hammer. You will need the brake pads, of course, and you will need the disc brake caliper tool set, which can be picked up at most any auto parts store, and they will return a deposit if you return the tool. Now the first thing we need to do is to jack the car up and to take that tire off. It's important to remember to put the car in gear and to put something behind one of the tires to keep it from rolling backwards. Now you can't use the emergency brake because that will interfere with replacing the brake pads. I'm going to be jacking the car up with this jack that came with the car. If you have an impact wrench, you can jack it up right away. But I'm going to be using the lug wrench that also came with the car. So I need to loosen these lug nuts before I jack the car up, otherwise it'll be very difficult to get them loose. So I have the car jacked up, and underneath I have a jack stand. Doesn't matter what kind of jack you're using, be sure to put a jack stand under there. And I also took the weight off of the jack and put it onto the jack stand by lowering it a little bit after placing the jack stand underneath. Now I'm ready to take the tire off. Now that the tire has been removed, we can take off the brake caliper. But just before we take it off, we're going to remove the emergency brake cable. This will make it a whole lot easier to work with the caliper once it's off. Now we're looking at the back side of the brake caliper. And here you see the emergency brake cable. This lever needs to be moved down so that the cable can move over the top of it. And after we've done that, we're going to pop this clip out and the cable should go right through the hole. Now there's a 13mm bolt right here that we can put a socket on to help move this lever down. Now that the emergency brake cable has been removed, we can remove the brake caliper. There are two bolts holding the brake caliper on, one on the top and one on the bottom. For this we need our 13mm socket and a 15mm open-end wrench. The 13mm socket will fit on the bolt back here, and the 15mm open-end wrench will fit on this nut here to keep it from spinning. And then we can loosen these bolts and take them out. Now that we've got the bolts out, we can use a screwdriver to help pry out the caliper. Before we do that though, we want to take our coat hanger and bend it in such a way so that once the caliper is out, we can use the coat hanger to hang it on this from the springs here so that there's not a bunch of weight on the brake line. Now, you can also do the same thing with the bungee cord. Once you get the caliper off and hung up, then you can take the disc brake caliper tool. You assemble it like this by taking this forcing plate, putting it over the handle here until it comes down over the body. You choose one of these slotted discs that matches the slots in your piston. You can see here that we have the disc brake caliper tool assembled on the caliper. This here is the forcing plate on the inside of the caliper, opposite of the piston, and here is the disc which matches up with the slots in the piston. Once you have the disc brake caliper tool assembled on the caliper, you need to take a wrench and place it on the nut, and then turn this handle here clockwise. Continue turning the disc brake caliper tool until the piston is flush with the rubber boot. Now we only need to replace the old pads with the new ones, and we can reinstall the caliper. Replacing the old pad with the new pad is simply a matter of removing the old pad, putting the new one in. And you may need to use a hammer to help tap it in. Make sure you are very gentle because you don't want to break the braking material. Once both pads are in, then you can place the caliper over the pads. Now it's a good idea to have one of the bolts already in your hand, because these springs like to push back on the caliper, making it hard to get the bolt in the hole. And so while you're holding it back, you can screw the bolt in a little bit, and then retrieve the other bolt and screw that one down as well. After you have both bolts in the caliper, make sure that none of the springs are sticking out of this hole in the back. And if nothing's sticking out and everything looks just good, go ahead and tighten up these bolts all the way. After these bolts are tightened and the caliper is unsecure, you can replace the emergency brake cable. Installation is simply opposite of removal. Take the cable, put it through the hole. With your 13-inch socket with ratchet, move the lever down and slide the cable over the top, and then snap the clip right back in, and the cable is secure. Now all that remains for this side is to put the tire back on, tighten it up as much as you can, let the jack down, and once the car is down you can tighten up the lug nuts all the way, and do the other side of the car just like you did this side. With a few simple tools, you can change your own brake pads, saving you money. Whatever kind of car you may have, I encourage you to invest in a repair manual for your car's year, make, and model. It may just be what you need to keep your head above the water. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and happy driving.